If you're over 60, I want you to imagine the most precious organ you own, the one that holds your stories, your wit, your independence, quietly shrinking a little each year. Not enough to notice today, not enough to frighten the family tomorrow, but enough that one morning a name slips, a stove is left on, a check is written twice. I'm a physician, and I will not sugarcoat this. The single most common fixable driver I see behind accelerated brain aging is a long, silent deficiency of omega-3 fats, especially EPA and DHA, the very building blocks your brain expects but rarely receives in modern diets. Decline doesn't begin when symptoms start. It begins decades earlier, when inflammation smolders, cell membranes stiffen, and your brain's wiring loses its flexibility. By the time forgetfulness announces itself, the groundwork has been laid. Your job, starting now, is to change that terrain. Your brain is about 60% fat by dry weight, and a huge share of the active fat and gray matter is DHA, a long, highly flexible omega-3 that keeps neuronal membranes soft and signals moving at the speed of life. DHA helps build synapses, the tiny bridges where one neuron whispers to the next, and it stimulates BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a growth signal for learning and memory. EPA, another long omega-3, is your brain's fire brigade. It helps resolve inflammation, steadies mood, and supports the chemical climate in which clear thinking is possible. Together, EPA and DHA are not supplements. They are structural. They are what a healthy brain is made of. When they are missing, the brain improvises with whatever fats are available, and in today's world, that often means too much omega-6 from seed oils, traces of trans fats from industrial processing, and excess palmitic acid generated inside your own liver when sugar and refined starches dominate. Improvisation keeps you alive. It does not keep you sharp. Let's talk about the villain that never quite makes headlines: chronic, low-grade, body-wide inflammation. It's not the dramatic, feverish kind. It's the kind that follows you after decades of ultra-processed food, frequent sugar hits, poor sleep, stress, and a heavy tilt toward omega-6 oils in restaurant fryers and packaged snacks. That same quiet inflammation exists in the brain, what we call neuroinflammation, and it changes everything. It slows conduction, disrupts neurotransmitters, weakens the blood-brain barrier, and accelerates the loss of synapses that make you you. EPA helps put those fires out. DHA rebuilds the wiring once the flames are controlled, but you cannot rebuild with lumber you never buy. That is why so many older adults, good people eating what they were told was heart healthy, drift into deficiency without ever realizing it. There is a number that reveals the truth far better than guesswork. It's called the omega-3 index, the percentage of EPA plus DHA in your red blood cell membranes. In practical terms, it mirrors what's in your tissues. Many labs can measure it with a finger prick at home. You mail the card and get a report. A healthy target for brain and heart protection is commonly placed around 8 to 12%. In reality, I see far too many older adults in the 4 to 8% insufficient range, and some under 4% deficient, despite eating fish sometimes. Why? Because sometimes is not a plan. Plant omega-3s don't convert well to DHA, and supplements are notoriously underdosed or forgotten. If you don't know your number, the story you tell yourself about fish and capsules is just that, a story. There is a second number worth knowing: your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio in cell membranes. Humans seem to thrive when this sits somewhere near 1.1 to 4.1. The modern pattern in many countries is 10.1, 15.1, even 20.1, tilted hard toward omega-6. That tilt doesn't make omega-6 bad. It makes the mix inflammatory. In stiff, aging arteries and delicate brain capillaries, inflammation is gasoline. As that ratio climbs, neuroplasticity drops. Brains rewire more slowly, reaction time lengthens, the risk of degenerative diseases rises. You don't feel a ratio, you live its consequences. While we are measuring, I want you to understand two more pieces of the puzzle that quietly poison the membrane your brain uses to think. The first is trans fats. They are man-made, unnatural shapes created by partial hydrogenation. Your enzymes don't recognize them properly, so they get stuffed into membranes and linger. displacing DHA, disrupting signaling, and feeding inflammation for months. The ideal trans fat index is 0. Labels still play games. 0 grams per serving can legally hide small amounts, so read ingredients and avoid anything with partially hydrogenated. Restaurants that reuse fryer oil can be a hidden source. Your brain doesn't need that bargain. The second is palmitic acid. Don't panic at the word saturated. Palmitic acid exists in you naturally. The danger is not a single stake, it's metabolism gone sideways. When insulin runs high from sugar and refined starch, your liver turns that excess into palmitic acid, de novo lipogenesis. And those stiffer fats end up in membranes if your cells cannot burn them well. Insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, and high omega-6 intake all make it harder to clear palmitic acid, so it accumulates. As it accumulates, membranes stiffen further, signaling worsens, and insulin resistance deepens. That is a vicious loop. Breaking it is not about fearing every gram of saturated fat. It is about fixing the chemistry, lowering sugar and refined starch, improving insulin sensitivity, raising EPA DHA, and cooling inflammation so the loop stops spinning. Here is the part that should sober you. Your brain can run at half power for years without raising its voice. Subtle slips, losing your train of thought under stress, feeling mentally tired by late afternoon, needing written lists for tasks you once did by instinct are often waved away as normal aging. They may be early flags that membranes are stiffening and synapses are thinning. You do not wait for a bridge to collapse to add steel. You reinforce it when you first see microcracks. Knowing your omega-3 index and your omega-6.3 ratio gives you that early warning. You measure, you act, and you retest in 3 to 4 months because red blood cells turn over about every 120 days. Most patients who truly change their inputs, dietary fish, disciplined supplements, cooking oils, refined carb reduction, see 50–80% improvement in their blood values over a few months, followed by changes they can feel: steadier mood, cleaner focus, less brain sand. What does action look like in a body over 60? It looks like food first, then smart supplementation if needed. Aim for 2 to 3 servings each week of fatty cold water fish, wild salmon, sardines, mackerel, Atlantic chub, not king, if mercury is a concern, herring, anchovies, trout. These fish carry EPA and DHA in the forms your cells recognize. If fish is not realistic for you, or your omega-3 index is low despite good habits, consider a purified fish oil or algal oil supplement that lists the actual milligrams of EPA and DHA per serving, not just fish oil grams. For many older adults with low indices, it takes on the order of hundreds to a couple thousand milligrams of combined EPA plus DHA daily to move the needle into the protective range, but you must coordinate with your own clinician, especially if you take blood thinners or have bleeding risks. Take it with meals to improve absorption and reduce fishy burps, and choose brands that publish third-party purity testing to avoid contaminants you don't want. At the same time, stop sabotaging the effort at your stove. Replace industrial seed oils, corn, soybean, sunflower, cottonseed, used for high heat frying with olive oil or avocado oil for gentle cooking, and don't reuse oils. You're not only reducing excess omega-6, you're avoiding oxidation products that inflame arteries and brains. Eat nuts because they are nutritious, but remember that many are omega-6 heavy. A modest handful is plenty, and walnuts are the only common nut that contributes a meaningful plant omega-3, ALA. Just remember, ALA converts poorly to DHA, so it cannot replace marine sources. Build your plates to calm insulin. That means protein at each meal to preserve muscle and keep you satisfied. Piles of non-starchy vegetables for fiber and polyphenols. Unprocessed fats that arrive with real foods, olive oil, avocado, eggs, fish, nuts, and, if you tolerate them, small portions of intact carbohydrates like lentils or steel-cut oats rather than flours and sugars that flood your bloodstream. Space your meals. Most older adults do beautifully on 2 or 3 meals within a 10-hour daytime window with water, plain tea, or black coffee between. You don't need multi-day fasts. You need a daily break from constant grazing so insulin can drift down and your cells can reach for stored fuel. If you take medications for diabetes or blood pressure, you must share your plan with your clinician so doses are adjusted safely. Dizziness, confusion, or near fainting is not progress. It's danger. Movement multiplies everything you're doing for your brain. A brisk 20-minute walk after meals flattens post-meal sugar spikes. Light resistance training 2 or 3 days a week tells your body to preserve the very muscle that clears glucose and keeps you independent. Aerobic activity and strength work both raise BDNF, the same brain growth signal DHA supports, so your effort and your nutrition become a tag team. Sleep seals the plan. Deep sleep is when the brain's glymphatic system washes away metabolic waste and when memories consolidate. Protect it like medicine. Dim your evening, cool your bedroom. Avoid heavy late meals and alcohol that fragment sleep, and keep a steady wake time. Cortisol falls when nights are calm. Insulin follows, inflammation cools. That's how belly and brain both heal. Some of you are wondering about safety. You should. Fish and fish oils can interact with medications. If you are on anticoagulants, antiplatelet drugs, or have a bleeding disorder, you must coordinate dosing with your physician. Fish oil can slightly raise LDL-C in some people even as it lowers triglycerides. You'll want to track your full lipid panel, not just one number. Quality matters wildly. Rancid oil is worse than no oil. Buy from companies that publish oxidation and contaminant data and store oils away from heat and light. If you dislike fish, high-quality algal DHA EPA is a reasonable alternative. If you have a fish or shellfish allergy, do not experiment. Use algal oil and guidance. If you have diabetes, do not change meal timing while on glucose-lowering medications without clinician input. Hypoglycemia is an emergency. And if anyone promises a specific brand of brain test with a coupon code as your salvation, step back. The principle, measure, act, remeasure is sound. You don't need a sales pitch to follow science. Let me share what turning the tide looks like in real life. A 72-year-old retired teacher came in with an omega-3 index of 4.6%, a ratio of omega-6, omega-3 at 15.1, high triglycerides, and a complaint she called brain static. She ate cereal and fruit juice at breakfast, a sandwich at lunch, and grazed on crackers and nuts until a late dinner. We didn't chase heroics. She swapped breakfast for eggs and sautéed greens with olive oil and a side of berries. She added sardines or salmon twice weekly and a purified fish oil, providing a specific amount of EPA plus J each day with her main meal. She moved her dinner earlier, closed the kitchen by 7 p.m., walked 10 minutes after each meal, and traded seed oils for olive oil. 3.5 months later, her index was 8.3%, her ratio was 5.1 and falling, her triglycerides were down 35%, and the brain static was, in her words, quiet most days. She didn't become a different person. She became herself again. I want you to be proactive, not panicked. Fear wakes us up. Plans keep us steady. Your plan is simple and relentless. Know your numbers. Omega-3 index, omega-6 dietary ratio, and if available, a trans fat index. Remove what inflames you, refined sugars and starches, industrial oils and reheated fry fats. Supply what you're missing, EPA and DHA from fish or a vetted supplement, protein from muscle, fiber and polyphenols from plants, real food fats that carry antioxidants and stability. Move your body after meals. Sleep like your memories depend on it. Retest in 3 to 4 months and keep going. You cannot control every gene or every year you've lived, but you can flood your brain with the materials it needs to build, connect, and protect. If you hear nothing else, hear this. Decline loves quiet. It loves when you mean to eat fish, plan to buy a supplement, or should sleep earlier. It loves later, someday soon. Your brain does not. It needs action you can feel in your day and see in your labs. When you take that action, when you lower the flames, rebuild the wiring, and keep inflammation on a leash, the organ that makes you who you are will repay you with something more valuable than any number. More clear mornings, more finished sentences, more laughter that doesn't get lost halfway through the story. That is what we are defending.